Now, there are a couple signs that typically manifest which can help you sort of decide if you are a very self-aware person or if it's something that you need to work on. Now, regardless, I think this is something that everybody, including yours truly, can do a much better job of. So, as I go through this list, ask yourself if any of these things typically happen to you. The first thing is, are you constantly defensive? Years ago, this is something that I struggled with all the time. People would give me feedback, they would critique me, and instead of really hearing what they were saying, all I heard was that they were attacking me, and I would get defensive and say, no, you're not, you're crazy, like, I'm fine, everything's good, right? I was very defensive about everything, and that was because I wasn't very self-aware. So if you find that you're constantly having to defend yourself and defend your position, that might be because you are not very self-aware. Another good example, and this is typically more evident if you are a manager or a leader, somebody that is responsible for other people. If you're constantly micromanaging them, if you're constantly having to hover over them and ask them what they're doing, what are you working on, how many hours are you working, if you constantly have to feel like you're somebody else's shadow, then you as a manager and as leader might not be that self-aware, and this is something that you'd be able to work on. A couple other examples that might signify if you're self-aware. Has anybody ever called you a bully? So has anybody ever said, man, that guy or that woman, she's such a bully, he's such a bully. They might not say this to your face, of course, but maybe they're saying this behind your back. So if you have a reputation as being that kind of overpowering, that kind of bully, the steamroller, then that might be another good indicator that self-awareness is an important skill that you need to practice. And the last one that I'll touch on for self-awareness is this notion of making excuses. Do you find that you are constantly in a position, not just of being defensive, but of having to explain why something didn't go according to plan? I've certainly worked with people like this. In fact, I have likely been this person during the course of my career when I've had jobs working for others, where people would ask me for stuff and I would say, oh, I couldn't do it. This happened or that happened, or, the dog ate my homework, right? The classic excuse. So if you're constantly having to make excuses for why things aren't getting done, for why the quality of work isn't always there, or maybe things are getting done late, if you're in that position of constantly having to make excuses, now again, you got to be honest with yourself, right? I mean, it's just us here. And so nobody's going to judge you if you say, oh, that never happens to me, right? Be honest with yourself and admit if that has really ever happened to you. Again, happened to me plenty of times. I'm sure it has happened to you. And if it has, I think you'll greatly benefit again from this idea of incorporating more self-awareness into your day-to-day life. Athena and I hope you enjoyed that. If you want more content like that, check out futureofworkpodcast.com. And do me a favor, please review the podcast on Apple Podcasts or whatever your preferred channel is. Thank you very much.